Well, welcome into another Johnny Torch live broadcast. The only way to spend your Saturday here with us on the Torch News Roundup. That's what we've got for you today. And this is our last big broadcast of 2023. Can you believe it already? The year has come and gone. It's December 30th, so we've got New Year's Eve tomorrow, but I figured I could fit in one more broadcast, which I owe to you guys because it's been quite a while since we did a Torch News Roundup. Last time we had the rumor of Pedro Pascal being cast as Reed Richards. I don't know if that has been confirmed even yet. It doesn't seem like that's come to have passed. But Happy New Year, one and all. And I thank you for joining us. God love you for being here every time you watch a broadcast. It's always appreciated. And from the bottom of my heart, I really and truly love all my fans. Again, I'm still suffering the lingering effects of this never-ending cold that, again, I apologize for my voice. I'm sorry if I sound a little nasal or a little off. I think everybody in the YouTube business at one point or other during this past month has suffered from the same affliction. So I'm in good company, I guess. All right, but we have two main things to talk about. We didn't talk about the Superman Legacy casting that happened over the past month. Old news to be sure, but still fun to chronicle. And I'm going to give a uh, worst to best list of the films I've seen this year. Now, I really didn't hate any of the films I saw this year. So, I mean, if you're expecting a hate fest where I'm going to just go off on some of these films, it's probably not going to be quite like that. But it's going to be the usual best to worst film. Hello, Derpy Entertainment. Glad to see you here with us. And a happy new year to you. And so let's get in on the first topic here. And if I can find the right the right controls. Let's see. First off, we're going to be talking about the Superman Legacy casting. Now, again, like I said, this is kind of old news, but we've got Jimmy Olsen cast as well as Lex Luthor and, believe it or not, Miss Tessmacher. Miss Tessmacher is going to be in Superman Legacy. This is the first time that she's been in a Superman movie for 40 years, right? When was the last time? It was 80? Superman 2, I believe. And so for a lot of people putting a lot of pressure on James Gunn to get it right with this film, he does seem to be pushing a lot of those buttons of the original Superman movie, the Christopher Reeve movie. It feels very much like he's trying to get this one right, which makes me very happy. As a big fan of that film, as I think everybody is. The casting so far has been nothing short of magnificent. I mean, they've pretty much cast every role with an actor that looks like the character on the page. Now, in the case of Miss Tessmacher, I mean, I guess the actress can dye her hair, but apart from that, I mean, we got a Jimmy Olsen that looks like Jimmy Olsen, a natural redhead, a ginger. We've got a Lois Lane that looks like Lois Lane, and of course a Superman actor who looks like Superman. It's very exciting. Let's see. I really love the Jimmy casting. Yes, me as well. And with Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. Now, I was pushing for him when he was being touted as on the short list for Superman actors. I was touting for him to be Lex Luthor. And fortunately, it seems like everybody had the same idea because, as this image here shows, if you shave his head, he makes a pretty compelling Lex Luthor. Whether he's going to sort of be in the mold of the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor, I don't know. That kind of remains to be seen. But he kind of looks like the old school Lex Luthor. I can imagine him sort of as the mad scientist, or, they could go the sort of businessman route, or, politician, I guess, which is sort of kind of been what he's been in the comics in later years. I don't really suppose I need to read the copy because this is pretty old now. But let's see. Let's see. Actors' names here are Skylar Gisondo, and again, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that name wrong, as Jimmy Olsen, and Sarah Sampaio as Eve Tessmacher. They've been cast, and I am not familiar with them in any film or anything, so this is uh, kind of news to me. They're new actors to me, and of course, Nicholas Hoult has been officially announced as Lex Luthor at this point. Let me see. I think he's going to be world building Lex. Yeah, that sounds to me. That sounds to me about right, because I don't think you start from the top with Lex Luthor. I think you kind of have to start at the ground level with him, and you know, I think there's been comments that this is a Superman that has been on the job sort of for a couple of years, but I don't think that they're going to jump to like President Luthor or something like that yet. So, yeah, this should be interesting, because this is really what they should have been doing with the DC characters from day one with the Snyderverse and everything. It didn't really feel like they had, or Snyder had, the comic versions in mind. I mean, I arguably everybody loves Henry Cavill, and he was a great looking Superman and everything. But the castings of a lot of the other characters, and you can hear me get into this a little bit more on my Aquaman review, which, by the way, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom review I dropped yesterday. So this is kind of unusual for me to do back to back episodes, but I feel I owed you guys. But it feels like there's an effort being made by James Gunn to sort of undo the herky jerky type of castings and stuff. I mean, we had Man of Steel, and then of course Suicide Squad sort of took everything in a different direction with like the Jared Leto Joker and things. Of course, with the Lex Luthor and Batman v Superman, it felt like they were really going off into real strange directions with the casting, and it feels like James Gunn has really tried to bolt it down to the nuts and bolts of what makes these characters tick in the original incarnations. That we're not going crazy stunt casting. We're going to try to do this the right way this time. There will be Lex bots. I think the Authority is going to be like Superman versus the Elite kind of thing. Yeah, that's right. I think yeah, that was a great movie, Superman versus the Elite, the animated one. I really enjoyed that. And if they're going to take elements from that, I would have no problem, because that's kind of also what you want to do with this film, is to establish Superman. And I think that story went a long ways in establishing him as sort of, the default version of Superman, where he's altruistic and he's not going to do the wrong thing, even if it hurts. He's going to do the right thing. I mean, that's kind of what you need to start with, I think. And that seems like what he's going for here, I think, James Gunn. But again, yeah, this let me go back to the copy and see. This is going to come out, I think, in 2025. Superman Legacy set for release in theaters July 11th, 2025. The Kurt Russell as Jor-El story has been debunked, I believe. Pom Klementif, is that how you pronounce her name? Also, that rumor was debunked. So we really don't know any other casting at this point besides the ones we already know, which I'll go over them again. David Corenswet is Clark Kent / Superman. Rachel Brosnahan is Lois Lane. Isabel Mercard as Hawkgirl. Edi Gathiel as Mr. Terrific. Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. Anthony Carrigan as Metamorpho. And Gabriella De Fiara as the Engineer. A character, again, that I'm not familiar with. So that'll be interesting. Yes, indeed. So again, this is going to be a lot of fun. I am looking forward to this. And unfortunately, actually, as we're going to be doing the the worst to best list of 2023, there's a lot of movies this year. Not all of them great, but next year is going to be a pretty empty year. I think Sony is the only one that's got stuff going on. We've got Craven, we've got Venom 3, we've got Madam Web. Not a lot to get excited about. I mean, I kind of want to see what they're going to do with Venom 3, sort of to close the chapter on that trilogy, I guess. The other ones really don't inspire me to too much confidence. Got Deadpool 3, which, again, I'm not a huge Deadpool fan, but we're going to have Hugh Jackman back for the first time in a number of years. apart from that, it's going to be a pretty quiet year coming up. So I don't know. It's going to be a long wait until we can see Superman on the big screen. Let's see. Kind of want Gina Davis to be Martha Kent. Well, I didn't think of that. Um, my my dream casting for like you know Ma and Pa Kent is probably going to be like unknowns because I really I really want like that old Ma and Pa Kent. We haven't had that in a while. And I mean, because the current craze is sort of like hot Aunt May and young Ma Kent and this and that. I just like want to see like a grandma and grandpa type Ma and Pa Kent if they're even in it. I'm not sure that they're even supposed to be in this, but considering that he's going sort of back to the Dick Donner version of Superman, I kind of imagine Pa Kent will be dead. Maybe Ma Kent will be alive. He had another, I think on Twitter, or it could have been Instagram or something, but James Gunn had the original Dick Donner banner that says verisimilitude with Superman flying, holding the banner, saying verisimilitude. And that's, again, another throwback to this kind of trying to be in the feel of what Dick Donner was establishing with the original Superman movie. What the word verisimilitude means is basically trying to take fantasy and play it realistically, authentically, and not naturalistically, but trying to find the genuineness, the authenticity in the moment, considering it's a high fantasy concept. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see. And again, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me, if you're watching this after the live broadcast, let me know what you think in the chat. Always happy to read all my comments on the next live broadcast, which will be probably next year at this point. But let me know, what do you think? Of course, the casting, like I said, it seems stellar, second to none. We look like we have a pretty good cast coming up with this film. I think Perry White is the only one left that really should be in this film. I'm not sure, there could be a lot of other characters from the comics to be cast, but Perry White's kind of an important one. I think you got to have him in there. So I imagine that's going to be the last casting that they're going to drop from this film. But yeah, be sure to let me know in the comments below. All right, we're going to do the worst to best list of the movies I saw in 2023. Now, the only caveat I have here is I did not see the Marvels. Now, it was not for, lack of want. I mean, I don't mind going seeing a movie expecting it's not going to be great, but at the time it came out, my calendar was full and I didn't have a chance to see it. So I don't know what I would think about Marvels. If I seen the Marvels, when it comes on Disney Plus or something, I'll be sure to give a review. So I cannot put that in with this list. In fairness, I didn't think it was going to be a great movie, and a lot of people have seen it, have said the same thing. So take that for what it's worth. All right, for our first one here, for the first one, I'm going to put at the bottom of the list Blue Beetle. Again, not a terrible film. I didn't hate it. I like the lead actor there, and I'm not going to go into full detail on all these films. I'm going to spend like three or 4 minutes each. But you know, if I give spoilers, just be prepared. And I don't know if anybody really cares at this point. If you wanted to see these films at this point, you must have already seen them. But yeah, rest in peace. But Blue Beetle, I mean, they played to the lore a little bit. I really want to see a Ted Kord Booster Gold film. That's really what I wanted to see in a Blue Beetle. This kind of was just the rehashing of the typical superhero trope. The kid that gets the super suit doesn't really know how to use it. Let's see. Blue Beetle is good, though. It's just that it's the DCU. Yeah, like I said, it's not really a bad film. It's just sort of like, you know, it's nothing that you can't really have seen anywhere else. It doesn't add anything except, well, they had the family dynamic in it, which was kind of entertaining. Like I said, they did try to play a little bit with the lore. They mentioned Ted Cord, the stinger at the end. He's still alive, so there's still a chance that he'll show up at some point. Like I said, I like the actor, Sholo. Again, I can't remember his name, but he's from Cobra Kai, which is still my favorite show right now. I can't wait for the final season to come up. I guess we're gonna get that next year. I'm not sure. But again, it's just not so much that it's bad. It's just that it's kind of plain, and I think they could probably build on it. What it reminded me of is like sort of like Shang-Chi. It's sort of like a character that nobody really knows that well, and you kind of have to build your world from the ground up, and that's what they did here. They just sort of, they had to make Blue Beetle a thing because they bypassed the Ted Cord years. So again, Blue Beetle is number 8 out of my top 10 here. Let me refer to my notes again. This is not that fast, I'm afraid, because I have I have to use the controls here as if I am helpless. All right. The next movie, number 7, I'm going to put on the list is Creed 3. Creed 3, again, another film that I would not say is bad. Was that worst or best? We're going from the least to the best. And again, this is solely my subjective interpretation. I don't think anybody's going to agree with many of these because I think most reviewers have said that all these films are bad. So, I mean, I feel that art is subjective. I'm just going to call it as I see it. If I enjoyed it in the theaters, I'm just going to rank them as the level of my enjoyment. I did like Creed 3. And this was the first one without Sylvester Stallone, without Rocky Balboa. And I think, in a sense, it was better for it. Again, but the problem is sort of, it's one of those things where I don't think that I enjoyed it more than a lot of the other films on this list. But it was arguably the best film in the Creed series, if that makes any sense to you. I think everybody that wanted to see the Creed films wanted to see them because of the Rocky tie-in. But I find that when you take Rocky out, it makes you care more about this character because during the second film, especially when it was all about Drago and Drago's son and stuff, Drago's son and that storyline sort of took up the other half of the film, and Rocky was sort of like left out and he was like left in the lurch, and you're always wondering, well, what's Rocky doing? Why isn't he having something to do with this? And this film, I already knew they cut him out, and I was like, well, he's out. We're just going to do Adonis's story, and it kind of freed me a little bit to just focus on that. So in a way, I think this is probably the best Creed film, and of course, we got Jonathan Majors. He was a good antagonist here, and it was a kind of, a different story, a kind of complex story about the history between these two guys, which is something that they never really touched on, like in a Rocky film or something. So there was still some uniqueness about this that they brought to the series that, that hasn't been done before. So for number 7, I believe this is Creed 3. Excuse me. All right. Number 6. Number 6, I'm going to put, I think a lot of people would have put this one much lower. I'm going to put Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, not a great film by any means. I think what put this one up a little bit higher than some of the other ones was the fact that we got the CGI prologue with the young Indiana Jones, and that was fun. I mean, whether you enjoyed the rest of the film or not, I mean, that was fun to sort of see Indiana Jones back in his classic era in the Nazi Germany, and then taking on a bunch of soldiers on a train, and that was really fun. The second half of the movie, not as good. I think the character of Phoebe Waller-Bridge was pretty insufferable. They had so many other options they could have went with, and they went with her, and that was partly the downfall of the film, in my opinion. Another part was people want to point at Harrison Ford being too old. He was, I think, 79 when he filmed this. And in a sense, you kind of feel it because he spends a lot of his time like on horseback or driving a car. I kind of wanted to see him actually do something proactive, like punch a guy or something. And that was few and far between. And that was kind of the staple of Indiana Jones, this man of action. But it was sorely lacking in this film. And again, that was by necessity because Ford being that age, he's really not going to get out there and duke it out and so forth. And so another problem I had was I think they kind of they this is not as bad as the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, but they had that deconstruction of the character thing again where he's kind of washed up, nobody cares about him anymore. His family has left him, his son is dead, and there's like really nothing left for him in life. And I kind of felt like I just don't want to see that story anymore for the aging hero that he's past his prime and now he's alone and jaded and so forth. Again, that didn't really do this character any favors. A guy that has seen basically the hand of God at work. Let's put it that way. And again, he's kind of old and jaded and wants to be left behind to die. I mean, again, it evoked too much of the Last Jedi and stuff to really be too successful. But again, I enjoyed it for what it was, and that's fortunately just seeing Harrison Ford in action again. All right, number five. Number five, we're getting into the ones I enjoyed a little bit more, I guess I should say here. This one is the one I just recently reviewed, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now, the problem with this one is, as I said in my review, and again, I'll just kind of encapsulate it pretty briefly here, but this was obviously a film that was tinkered with in reshoots, and they did their best to sort of cut out Amber Heard. I know that's a contentious point amongst people. They didn't want her in it at all. They wanted a recast and this and that. I think you just hold your nose and let Amber Heard do her role, but they cut it down so badly that she really has, for such an important character, she has such a little presence in this film that it was literally embarrassing. And you could tell, like, when the filmmaker is tinkering with the film to try to appease the audience, that's never a good thing. There was some good things to be had there. Again, I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but Black Manta was very good. It was a lot of fun seeing him doing his, revenge march. We had some fun to be had with Orm and the team up between the two brothers. And, like I said, it just felt like there was too many chefs tinkering in the kitchen, trying to take out things and then trying to reinvent things and move the plot forward now that we cut out a lot of Amber Heard and now that we've cut out Ben Affleck and we have to sort of stitch it together and make it look seamless, which they couldn't do. But again, there was a lot of good stuff in it. So, I mean, this is sort of mid territory. I think if you enjoy the original Aquaman, you'll probably enjoy this. If they had, I think if they had honestly kept hands off and just went with whatever they had originally on filmed, that probably would have been a better picture. And that's the reason why this one's down a little bit lower. But it was still a lot of fun. And again, it's the ending of the DCEU as we know it. It's not a whimper, not a bang, but sort of just another adventure in the DCEU. And, take that as you will. All right, next up, we are on number 4. Now, this is a film that I closely associated with Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Now, this is a film, again, that is not a bad film. I don't think that this film was terrible, but at the same time, they kind of squandered a lot of possibilities, a lot of potential that the story had. Much like Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, there is like some long, tedious stretches where we have to explain the story, we have to explain the backstory, we have to sort of go over the relationships. The humor is kind of weak, especially in the Marvel films now. It's starting to get pretty strained. Same with Aquaman and Lost Kingdom. But the only difference with this one, and of course they both end with nice, hugely satisfying slugfests between the hero and the villain, Scott Lang and Kang, and Aquaman and Black Manta. But the reason why Aquaman is below this film is because this film at least felt like they had some cohesion to it. There was not a lot of tinkering after the fact. Much like Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Wasp is sort of given a back seat the same way that Mira is given a back seat. They are very similar, but again, like I said, I feel like they kind of put the emphasis on the script in this one, where in Aquaman, they kind of cut down what they had and tried to rejigger it. And that's kind of why this one's a little bit further up on the list. But both of them are sort of mid with their, with their feet dangling on the other side of the fence to good. But, a better product probably could have came out of both of these films. All right, so next up, we've got number 3. Number 3 is going to be, I guarantee you, something that's going to shock and cause no end of consternation to people. But I genuinely enjoyed The Flash. Now, again, I'm not a huge fan of Ezra Miller, and in this film, you get 2 Ezra Millers. I generally like the story. I mean, we've gone over this story ad infinitum, or whatever they say, that Barry's mother is killed, and we've seen that on the TV show like probably they ran 9 seasons. They probably did that story probably 8 of those 9 seasons. So I really didn't need to see Barry's mother get killed again. But given that that was the story, I really enjoyed this one. I kind of thought it was a lot of fun. We got Michael Keaton's Batman back after like 30 years. And they did pretty well by him. I mean, they didn't make him a joke. They didn't make him an old man. He pretty much fit seamlessly back into the cowl and did his Batman things. I thought that Ezra Miller's performance was funny and heart-touching. I really can't fault him, even though I'm not crazy about the guy as an actor. I would have never chosen him to be the Flash. But given the film that we got, I have to say that it plays really well. I mean, the biggest problem I had was I didn't like the fact that we don't ever find out who it was that killed Barry's mom. I mean, they kind of left that plot line out of the story, but I guess it would have got in the way of sort of the multiverse stuff that was going on. And also, I think that it was pretty ambitious. I think trying to tie the multiverse together, they had done something like this in Crisis on Infinite Earths on the Arrowverse series. And this was also kind of fun. I mean, it got some people complaining that they brought back a CGI Christopher Reeve and Adam West and stuff like that. I mean, to me, it was a good. It was trying to do a nice round of applause to those characters that got us here. So I didn't have any problem with it. I don't know why people would feel that way, but your mileage may vary, as I say. Again, I just think it was a lot of fun, and the story could have, they could have cut down on some of the beats. I think it was a little long if there was any real criticism. The Supergirl actress was pretty good. She didn't figure into it too much, but she played what they gave her pretty well. And so, yeah, that is my number 3 this year, The Flash. All right, once in a while I have to pause to cough because, like I said, I'm still, believe it or not, still under the weather. So hopefully my voice holds out for the remaining 2. Now, number 2, I'm going to say Super Mario Brothers movie. This was a lot of fun, this movie, and I really wasn't expecting a whole lot because I really am not a dyed-in-the-wool Super Mario Brothers fan. Oh, yeah, I know it. This is going to be a tough one. These last few, I think, are going to be tough on the viewer as well. We have Super Mario Brothers. I bought a lot of those games. And let me see. Wait a second here. I got my list. Okay. Hopefully you're going to have a exciting list here because I think this one's going to shock and rock a lot of people. So, yeah, Mario Brothers. I went to see this with my brother, and maybe that was another reason why it was so much fun, because it's really about the spirit of brotherhood and, looking out for your brother and all that stuff. Like I said, I really wasn't too much into the Mario games. I have like a PlayStation, so I don't really play too many of the Nintendo things. But I have the memories of being a kid and playing the Super Mario Brothers, the original like first three. That was a lot of fun. And, they played it pretty much straight the way that I remember those characters from being a kid. And I think, it was one of the better family films this year. I mean, if you wanted to take your kids to see something, this was probably your best bet. And the humor was good. Like I said, I remember the character when they're in the dungeon and he's like the star character, and he's always like so excited about death and and pain and the end of life and existence. I mean, there was some funny stuff there for adults as well. So that's gonna be my number two, Super Mario Brothers. I gotta check this one out again. I haven't seen this one again since I seen it in the theaters. All right, and here's the number one. Now, if anybody has seen me on Twitter or talking about the films this year, they're going to know what's number one on my list, because this is the only legitimately. I think I gave this one. Did I give this one 5 stars? Maybe it was 4.5. But this, I think, was the only really legitimately great film this year that I really enjoyed, and I actually went back a second time to watch it again. And again, people, I don't know if they're going to cotton to this one, but for me, best film of the year, hands down, was going to be uh, Shazam. I almost said Superman. Shazam 2: Fury of the Gods. Now, I enjoyed this one a lot. I I passively liked the first Shazam. I didn't really like I didn't really get too excited about the first one. I thought it was pretty good. It was sort of like, like they say, big with superpowers. But this one, I kind of felt they went their own way. They kind of actually got the premise and did something different with it. And I actually like what they did with it. I mean, it's about Billy, and he's kind of growing up, and he's trying to keep his family together. He's trying to keep things, both on the superhero side and on the family side. The villains are probably, not going to make anybody forget about Lex Luthor or the Joker or something, but they were reasonably good for a story like this. We got, Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu and what's that other girl's name? Rachel, yeah, whatever her name is. But yeah, this one was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and I thought that what's his name? Zach Levy. He's really fun. He's really fun as this character, and I would like to see more. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. There was ties to the DCEU at large with Gal Gadot cameo, which I thought was funny, and then she comes back in at the end. It's kind of like that old school Silver Age superhero movie, you know, something you would see in 50s comics, I think. And that's kind of what appeals to me, because everything in this day and age has got to be so like serious and, dark and brooding and this and that. But we kind of have a throwback in this. And of course, all the other kids are great. Mary Marvel and Freddie and I think all those characters, they actually got a decent amount of screen time. My only regret is that they didn't give Billy enough like young Billy screen time. I kind of wish they gave him a little something else to do. But the problem inherent with the Shazam films is that the kids are growing up really fast, and I think they wanted to sort of concentrate on them, being superheroes in this film. But again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And you got Shazam slash Billy doing the heroic sacrifice and everything. Again, it just harkened back to me a lot of classic superhero stuff, Silver Age maybe, but it was my favorite of this year. Let me see. Taking a look at my list, I see that I forgot one. I knew that was going to happen. As a as a plus one, I would say this. This one was. We'll put this one at number two. We'll put this one at number two and move everything down. I guess I misnumbered these, but anyway, we forgot Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But Guardians 3 was also a great film. This one was probably number 2 on my list if I had remembered to put it on the list. But it was a lot of fun. It was very emotional as well. You get Rocket's backstory. And sort of the farewell of the team. I really like Star-Lord. I like this character, and I hope they're going to do something with him going forward. They said at the end of the movie Star-Lord would return, so I imagine they are going to do something with him. I think everybody ended up kind of getting what they wanted. Drax was sort of like back to being a father, and you know, Groot is sort of now in charge, and Peter is back on Earth. I kind of feel like that it ended the way it should have. The villain was pretty interesting with the High Evolutionary. I don't know if they broke any real new ground there with that character, but again, it was a lot of fun. So let that one be number 2, I guess, on the list. All right, let's see what Derpy Entertainment's is. Number 10, Indy and the Dial of Destiny. Number 9, Wonka. I haven't seen Wonka. It looks good, though. It looks good. 8, Blue Beetle. 7, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's the new one. 6, The Flash. 5, Guardians. 3. 4, Creed. 3. Mission Impossible 7. I never watched any of the Mission Impossible movies. I got to get to that. I got to do that one of these days and start watching them because I hear a lot of people saying they're good. 2, Super Mario Brothers, and number 1, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet either. I'm not a really big fan of the Spider-Verse films. I mean, the first one, but I know it's very popular. So, I mean, I think that's probably a list that a lot of people are going to be agreeing with and are excited for, unlike mine. But again, let's look over the list one more time, and I'll try to fix it up now so that it makes sense. Number 9, Blue Beetle. Number 8, Creed. Number 7, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Number 6, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Number 5, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Number 4, The Flash. Number 3, Super Mario Brothers. Number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And number 1, Shazam: Fury of the Gods. So that about wraps it up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for checking it out. Thank you, Derpy Entertainment, for being with us for this show. This was a lot of fun. And again, I'm going to try to get back on track. I know I'm still kind of recuperating from this illness, but I'm going to try to get back online more often and do some more shows with you guys. I want to make sure that we have a happy and prosperous new year. And of course, we're going to have, okay, thank you too. Thank you very much, Derpy. And we're going to have more excitement coming in the way of Bulletsperm comics. I've got issue number 12. I'm hoping this is going to be out in February. I cannot make any promises because between problems with my laptop and problems with my, health and basically having to take all of December off, I'm a little bit behind. So if it's not February, it might be March, but we're going to try to get that issue out to you pretty soon. And we will finish the first season of Bullets Bourbon, and we will finish the last issue in the 3-issue arc called Man of Our Times. So again, until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch, reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.